big thing. He also declared his faith in one God. And that's all you have to do, actually, to be a Muslim.
All the times that I've cried, keeping all the things I knew inside, it's hard, but it's harder to ignore it.
They're the lines I like in songs, you know, because that's real, you know. It's hard, but it's hard to ignore it. It's what you'd say, you know. It's always been the same. I know I have to go away, yeah.
And I know that I have to go away. I know I have to go. We've only got one life, and we've got to do the best with it. And you've got to find the right path, and when you do, you know it. So I pray that you find the right path. Inshallah. Goodbye.
Cat Stevens left the stage as Yusuf Islam, never intending to perform again.
I was surprised. Yeah, I was surprised. And I think it took great courage, because he walked away when he was really at the height of his career.
I was not upset that he went religious or went, you know, on his way with that. I was more upset with the fact that I wasn't going to get any more of those types of Cat Stevens songs. Just selfish thoughts.
Having made one sacrifice, his career as a musician, music and instruments would have no place in his life from now on.
I came into contact with another interesting element of Islam. You find that there are different schools of thought. You know, so now I'm asking somebody about what does this mean? He's telling me that. And now I'm asking someone else and they're saying something different.
By that you're referring, of course, obliquely to the fact that you gave up music.
That's true. One of the issues was music, even though there's nothing in the Quran which states that music is prohibited. There were these voices saying, well, it's doubtful, and this is what this verse means.
Well, you know, always there are different opinions on music and the influence of music on a human being, whether it's a positive or negative. And different scholars in Islam have given different opinions. However, even in Mecca, when you turn on the radio, you hear music and you hear singing. Singing which is far more suggestive and far more corrupting, if there is such a thing as corrupting, than anything Yusuf Islam was doing in the early 70s.
I retreated to where I believe was the safest point, and that is just, you know, the literal meaning, as far as you can get without any complication, that's it. And that meant for me, you know, giving away my guitars and you know, getting down to the job of living.
Hello? How can he get closer to God with his talent and not express that proximity through that talent? That's not doable. Islam has always sung to God, as indeed has every single belief.
It was a great shame for me, and I think it was a great shame for music. But the only person it wasn't a great shame for was him.
From here on, Yusuf's life was to change completely. With his mother's consent, he undertook a Muslim marriage to Fawzia Ali and went on to have 5 children, 4 girls and a boy. Education became his new passion and his vocation, and he used his music royalties to found a Muslim school.
I kind of fell into education because of the birth of my first daughter, you know, and that was enough of a motive for me.
We just try and keep up with each other.
There was no school which I could send my child to that could get a balanced education, spiritual as well as, you know, material. We've developed a new syllabus which would have a much more inclusive approach to faith as well as science.
Sparks. What are those sparks? Electrons. So electrons are going to do what?
At one point, religion had much more of a control. And I know the problems with that as well, because sometimes the religious lessons are too exclusive. And too narrow. And therefore, it's all about ritual. And that's a problem, because life should not be ritual. It's a celebration.
And do you think you've captured it now in these schools that you've managed to set up and got the government to participate in?
I think we've helped to establish a model whereby we can move and develop even further. But this has also inspired a lot of people to start schools. Now there are 150 schools in the UK. Assalamu alaikum.
According to a recent survey of British Muslims, Yusuf Islam is the most highly regarded Muslim figure by a considerable margin.
He has become a spokesman for the Muslim community. He is respected, and he is a major figure in the 21st century Muslim leadership. He's very, very influential, more so than many of the imams and the scholars who are not as articulate, who are not as consistent in what they do.
We need inspired leadership to guide us back to the elevated path of wisdom and away from the temporal politics of ignorance.
All of a sudden I found out he was the head of almost 60 Islamic organizations, and people were looking to him as being the spokesperson for that. I thought, oh my God, there he goes again.
When you first turned to Islam, it was a very different place to where it is today.
Of course, with what was happening in Iran, one regime disappears, very much influenced by the West, another regime comes, the Ayatollah, all that period. The profile of Islam changes radically.
To what finally became a political perception of what Islam actually meant. It was far, far away from the reformation of human character and behavior that I had discovered when I opened the Quran. And then, of course, it became a very difficult job, because now I was being painted with the same colors as, as all this other kind of political stuff.
As antagonism between the Muslim world and the West began to surface, Yusuf became embroiled in one of the flashpoints.
One infamous occasion was the moment of the satanic verses and the fatwa on Salman Rushdie, when you were asked questions by a journalist which seemed to confirm to them that you believed the fatwa was right. What happened there?
Well, this is a first-class example of exactly how, I've been portrayed. Of course, I was going to be a prime target for a question on this issue. And so I tried to get it straight. I said, well, what is it saying? And of course, like the Bible, the Quran, defines blasphemy without repentance as being a capital offence. And that's all I stated. And of course, the next time I read the paper, I've got new words that I've spoken. Nothing to do with me. I never supported the fatwa.
Do you think you were naive at the time in answering? I mean, the press, you say the media, but the media will always do that. If you leave them simply with that statement, well, it says it's a capital offence in the Quran, it's not surprising that they then might go off and rush and write copy which says, and he approves of it.
Well, I did release a statement the very next day after I read that headline, which completely contradicted what they'd said. But that never got the headlines. Of course, once the damage is done, everybody perceives you for what they've seen, on the front page. Then, it was a matter of me just learning the hard way.
As the conflict came closer to home, to Europe, Yusuf Islam became heavily involved in humanitarian relief for the Bosnian Muslim population, victims of the war.
I got a call from one of the heads of the organisation saying, do something. I said, well, I'm doing